Idiom for someone acting extremely out of character. The following is from Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy. Do you want some sums? Not just at the moment, said Bhaskar. My head is full of them. Maan could hardly believe this response. It was as if Kumbhakarn had decided to wake up at dawn and go on a diet. For context, Bhaskar is Maan's nephew and loves to do math problems. His refusal here is uncharacteristic. The line as if Kumbhakarn had decided to wake up at dawn and go on a diet is a reference to a figure in the Ramayana, Kumbhakarna, who was famously slumberous and gluttonous. It would have been very out of character for him were he to wake up at dawn and go on a diet. I'm not actually sure if this is a translation of some sort of an Indian proverb or whether Seth is just making an allusion, but either way, this idiom doesn't work in English, because the average English speaker is unlikely to understand the reference. So, is there an English idiom that can describe someone acting out of character? For an example sentence, it should just be capable of replacing the original line that prompted this question. I'm aware that dictionaries list acting out of character as an idiom, but I'm looking for something more colorful/evocative/illusory. To clarify, I'm looking for an idiom to describe someone who's deviating from their normal way of acting, not from society's expectations.
Here is a common instance of this. Maan thinks Bhaskar is acting extremely out of character. So Maan says, "Who are you? And what have you done with Bhaskar?" Heartspring suggests the Farlex Dictionary of Idioms, at the Free Dictionary, as a reference.
The expression using Kumbhakarn is understandable for anyone familiar with Kumbhakarn, and obscure for anyone not familiar. If you want to adapt the expression to an English audience, you could just pick your favorite character from mythology or books or movies or comic books, or your favorite animal, or your favorite physical certainty, and get an equivalent of the expression. You could also keep the Kumbhakarn reference, and just add a footnote explaining who Kumbhakarn is. If I was a reader, I would prefer this solution. Sadly, publishing houses would probably prefer the solution of adapting the reference to Western culture. It was as if Obelix suddenly began preaching nonviolence and veganism. It was as if Popeye the Sailor suddenly expressed a dislike of canned vegetables. It was as if Sherlock Holmes had become bored of mysteries. It was like hearing Scrooge McDuck complain that his piggy bank was too heavy. Had Zeus become the god of calm weather, abdicated his throne and remained faithful to his wife? What next? Do frogs complain when the weather is too humid? It was as if birds decided not to fly and fish not to swim. It was like hearing my cat proclaim a taste for lettuce leaves and a dislike of perfectly good fish. It was as though sloths became frantic and leopards became slow. It was as if wood was tired of floating and rocks complained about sinking. It was as if copper had enough of conducting electricity. It was as if gravity decided to stop making apples fall. It was as if the sun was tired of shining and the moon of reflecting its light, etc. It was as if Dr. Jekyll had metamorphosed into Mr. Hyde. Or perhaps vice versa. From the famous story by Robert Louis Stevenson, Wikipedia.
You could say someone is out of their tree. Idioms from TFD include: to be out of one's tree. Out of your tree informal. If someone is out of their tree, they are crazy or behaving very strangely. I'm going out of my tree with this. Honey, don't let it get you down. If someone is out of their tree, they are unable to act normally because they have taken drugs or drunk a lot of alcohol. It was obvious they had taken something. They were both out of their tree. Clearly off your rocker. What are cradles made of? Acting out of character. Though he did not coin the term, Stanley Elkin artfully described it as being out of one's tree melts your watch like a dolly. When Elkin, a writer, woke up one day and didn't know who he was or even how to get up, literally or practically not knowing his ass from his elbow, he had lost his mind as a side effect of medication for MS to the point he couldn't remember simple things like how to take a shower. After recovering, he wrote about this bout of his own, fortunately, temporary insanity in an essay of the same title, recounting how he acted so out of character he didn't know his own morning shower regime, not even recognizing the functions of soap and water. His side effects hit his memory to the point he did not know his own books bound and published in front of him. He was out of his tree. Thankfully he climbed back up and wrote a rather candid tale about it.
American English doesn't really have an idiom like the Kumbakarna one. The closest we have is who are you and what have you done with X? As Gedger shows, but it doesn't really fit. But that doesn't mean we can't make one up. One possibility is to simply switch Kumbakarna with Garfield, a cat from a comic strip of the same name by Jim Davis who's pretty much a modern incarnation of Kumbakarna. It'd be just as weird for him to wake up at dawn and go on a diet. Other possibilities include Bart Simpson deciding to study for college and stop pulling pranks, Dr. Brennan deciding to give up science and become a priest, and Zeus deciding to bag it up and stay faithful to his wife. However, none of these are idioms, they are metaphors that reference popular culture, and you need to know your audience to be able to execute them well. Since Vikram Seth is himself Indian and the book is set in India, it's possible he's just doing the same thing with this Kumbakarna reference, but instead using it to indicate what kind of person Maan is, a proud Indian who knows his culture well enough to make a reference like this.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.